Welcome, my friends, to Inside the Minds of Authors. I'm DC Gomez, and I'm thrilled you're joining me today for a fun conversation with a passionate author. We're kicking off the program, like it's our tradition, with a short reading from the feature book. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get started.
Hello, readers. I am Lynn Colby, writer of paranormal thrillers and fantasy. And today we're going to talk about my paranormal thriller, The Collector, part of the Emergence series. And in this book, Fauna Young can sense emotions on people and objects, like strong memories left behind. She thinks she's the only one in the world who can do this until she finds an art object that has a bunch of impressions all put together in one thing. Surely this can't be a coincidence. There must be someone else who can do what she can do. So she puts on her big girl panties and she decides to go meet the artist. And that's where we come in right here. What do I say? I hovered in front of the elevator for 10 minutes and stared at the red door at the other end of the hallway. My heart raced as if I just finished a marathon. Nope, I can't do this. I pressed the elevator button. What did I think I was doing, driving out here to bang on the door of a complete stranger and demand answers for questions I didn't know how to ask? The elevator doors slid open and I took one step. My muscles tensed, refusing to move any further. If Albert really was cursed, and he could so effortlessly coexist with the remnants that tortured me, maybe he could teach me the trick, show me how to control this curse. If I walked away now, I could be alone forever, stuck in this not life. The only real connections to humanity I had were Gina and Amelia. But what would happen if they married and had families and left me behind? I never dared dream of a husband and children and PTA meetings and strolls on the beach, but maybe I could have that with Albert's help. Maybe he could teach me how to be normal. I had to take the chance. In one determined movement, I pivoted on my heels, marched down the hall, and knocked on number 413. On its own, the door swung open before I had a chance to drop my fist. Doubt flooded my mind as the smell of rotten food wafted from the darkness. My forearm blocked my nose. Over the foul odor flowed more emotional remnants. I hadn't considered the possibility there would be more pieces at his place. I should have finished that bottle of wine before I headed over here. A little numbing would be a welcome gift. My gloves hugged my hands as I steeled my resolve. A metal rack stacked tightly with eclectic pieces practically vibrated with impressions. I marveled at the cultivated collection. Albert, or his partner, must have combed the state to amass these objects embedded with memories. I'd come across only a few in my entire lifetime. Was he putting together statues and placing them all over the city, like a kind of calling card for cursed people to track him down? How many of us could there possibly be? What was I getting myself into? Albert? My voice echoed against the dark walls, like these shelves were the only furniture in the place. I should probably just leave, but you summoned me. Albert? My mother's hymn in my mind turned to her voice, admonishing me for my lack of manners. Mr. Johnson, are you here? A dim light beckoned me further into the apartment. That smell turned my stomach. He couldn't be here. No one would leave food to rot that long without tossing it. What was next? I guess I could leave him a note. It felt strange to leave my details after breaking into a stranger's home, but I wasn't sure what else to do. Around the shelves, I was careful not to touch. A small Victorian stained glass lamp offered a bit of light. On its table sat a notepad and a pencil roughly carved, like with a penknife instead of a formal school sharpener. Something was really wrong, but I couldn't figure out what it was. The impressions beating my brain made it difficult to think clearly. My hand shook as I reached for the writing utensil. I'm leaving you a note, Mr. Johnson. If you're here, damn it. The pencil slipped from my hands and rolled toward the kitchen. It stopped abruptly in a drop of liquid. When I retrieved it, all I could think was how gross this apartment was. As I turned the pencil in my hand, the thick fluid was almost gel-like. The pale lamplight reflected off a deep red, almost purple pigment. What is this? Curry, maybe? Or rancid ketchup? My heart beat faster as something deep down, something under the haze of the wine, told me it wasn't a condiment. Before I had time to question my actions, I used the light from my phone to follow the trail around the faux wall between the kitchen and living area. All other emotions, mine and those of the impressions, vanished in an instant, and all I felt was shock. The light rippled as tremors shook my hands. Sprawled in the middle of the black and white classic tiles lay the mutilated corpse of Albert Johnson. I barely made it to the front door before every meal I ever ate poured out of me. After I purged enough to catch my breath, I noticed the blood-dipped pencil still clutched in my gloved hand. It fell from my grip, and I rubbed the coagulated blood on the wall. I wiped my mouth with the back of my unstained glove. This was not what I signed up for. Obviously, he couldn't answer any questions. It wasn't like I could speak to the dead. I had to get out of here. As I fled to the elevator, my conscience tore at my resolve. I couldn't just leave him there, alone, mutilated. I pivoted and headed back for the red door. The acidic smell of vomit mixed with rot from the bloody corpse overwhelmed my nasal passages. What do people do in these circumstances? Scenes from my favorite crime procedurals popped into my mind. I'd never be able to watch another one with the same sort of detachment. I understood stumbling across a murder victim in a visceral way now. What was I supposed to do? I almost snapped my fingers as I remembered, call 911. This is 911. Where are you calling from? The woman's voice was so calm and logical, she helped focus my panic. I took a deep breath and spouted out the address. Thank you, she said. Can you tell me what your emergency is? My emergency? What was I supposed to tell her? I followed an invitation from an artist physically embedded in a statue, and when I got here, the artist was a dead body. It sounded totally reasonable. I was sure she would send a padded wagon instead of a paddy wagon. My hand massaged my forehead. I found a dead guy on the floor of his condo. Is the victim breathing? Breathing? Oh my God, I hadn't checked. What if he was still alive and I wasted this precious time in panic? My guilt overrode my fear as I re-entered the crime scene. The shelf of impressions hummed as I walked past, but I didn't get any details. I didn't have the energy to listen. By the kitchen, blood splattered the floor more aggressively than I'd noticed the first time. Bile burned my esophagus at the shoe prints on the tile. Shit, I contaminated the crime scene on my flight, didn't I? The street lamps glowed through the kitchen window, casting the scene in a jaundiced light. Dusk gray haze discolored Albert's dark eyes. The picture in the black and white photo online gave him more color than he had now. A dizzy spell washed over me. I leaned against the refrigerator so I wouldn't pass out. My imagination saw shadows move along the far wall. A quick search revealed the light switch, which I flipped on. In life, his skin must have been a gorgeous deep brown, not the splotchy taupe that reflected the fluorescent lighting. His short, relaxed dreads blended beautifully with his tight beard. His death grimace was a mockery of the confident grin from the newspaper article. The voice in the phone made me jump. I'd forgotten I was holding it. Ma'am, are you still there? Is he breathing? Not for a while now, would be my guess. Ma'am, can you still hear me? Uniformed officers and an ambulance are on their way to your location. ETA 2 minutes. Thank you. It was the only thing I could think to say as I hung up the phone. I'd never seen a dead body before. Even when my grandparents died, my mom wouldn't let me attend the wake. She knew I was a sensitive child and didn't want to scar me for life. She didn't realize that my sensitivity had nothing to do with life or death. It was being assaulted with emotions I was too young to understand. It made me close myself off from as much as I could as a sort of protective measure. Did he do the same thing? Albert Johnson died alone. Was this my future? What if he was the only other person like me on the planet, the only hope I had to free me from this isolation? The murderer couldn't get away with this, with taking away the only bit of hope for answers I had, with causing this beautiful man to die in agony. I dropped to my knees in the clean spot by his head. My gloves came off before I knew what I was doing. My logical mind screamed at me. The show said not to touch anything. Then again, I'd already screwed up with my footprints. My emotional mind, the part that held the curse, prodded me along. If I could see the murderer, I could give his description to the police. I could at least point them in the right direction. If this was me, I'd want some sort of justice. Before reason won the battle, I put both hands on the shoulders of Albert's plaid button-up shirt. The turmoil of a murder left a strong impression, and my mind plunged into the storm.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another amazing episode of Inside the Minds of Authors. We have some incredible authors so far, so hopefully you guys have been having a blast. If you are new to the podcast and wondering, oh my God, what's going on? We have new and exciting authors every week for you to bring you their fabulous readings, what the new books are coming up, and all the fun stuff that you guys can't miss. Also, if you're interested in supporting the podcast, guess what? Check out the Patreon tribe, Podcast Junkies. You also get to see the video before anybody else. So you get to see the behind the scenes of all the things we don't show you anytime we messed up, all that fun stuff.
What? Mess up? Never.
Absolutely never. So let's jump in because I have my dear friend, the fabulous Miss Kelly. Hi, sweetie. How are you?
Hello. I am great today. The sun's out. What could be better?
I know. I looked out the window. I was like, this hasn't happened in forever here in Texas.
Right, exactly. It's nice.
Insane.
Mhm.
So I am usually taking notes of all the questions that I'm supposed to be asking you guys while we're doing this. And I just kept getting drifted into the story. I was like, okay, I have no idea what I was going to ask. What is happening here? I am so captivated by the story. And then you tell me this is not chapter 1. So bring us in. I want to know, how did you come up with the story? And
Mhm.
what is happening here? Because I'm like, girl, don't touch. And she touched. I was like, why are you touching? Like, you see in the movies, don't touch. She
Don't
touched.
touch. She touched. She had to touch. Fauna Young, she can sense impressions on things. So if you have like a really strong emotional reaction to something, the way this world works is when you have a really strong emotional reaction, you can't actually leave that energy behind on the object. So Fauna Young can actually sense those. So she can actually dive into the memory, which is what she's about to do with Albert. She's going to actually experience his murder, which is why she wears gloves. Can you imagine diving into a memory? Just
Yeah.
you're here having lunch and somebody had a bad day and left it on the chair and you touched the chair, right? Like, no, I don't want any part of that. So Fauna has to deal with that all the time. That's what's happening here. But she thought she was the only one who could do that. She's never told anyone. The only one who knows is her direct family. Nobody else knows that she can do this, not even her best friends. It's quite a thing. And when she finds someone else who might be able to do it, that's Albert. That's the scene I read. She was like, I have to meet him. I have to. I mean, so that's why she's doing all these crazy things that normally we wouldn't do, because she is desperate to find somebody else like her.
She should have stayed with the gloves on. Totally with the gloves on. This is from a side of person. I'm like,
Don't touch.
and don't touch the pencil. Don't touch anything. But she did. Sweetie, where did this story come from? Where did this idea that is so vivid, you're like, I want to write this into a book?
The first thing for me was, I don't actually believe in special powers, but I do believe there are things we don't understand and there are things we sense and we don't know what to do with them, right? And I am empathic, but in a normal way. I really take on other people's emotions, which is why I like to stay at home, because it's safer here, right? It's a lot less energy I'm using, absorbing everyone else's emotions. So because of just that thing with me, I made it an actual power. And then one day we have this, I don't know if you've ever been to like Old Town Spring. It's like every town around the country has those old towns where there used to be a train station, or they used to, right? You have this, so you have these little shops. Well, one of them is this cute little artsy shop that has this eclectic collection of heaven knows what in there. So I love to go in there. And one day I went in there and there was a statue, which is in this book. That's what starts this. That's what Fauna finds. That starts her journey. That was made up of all of these little pieces of humanity. Like one of the arms was an old baseball bat, but like a little one, like a toddler would use, was like one arm. Its throat, like where its throat was, the little voice box that was there was a little music box, like just the inside part of the music box that was here. There was old farm equipment. There were some rulers. It was just a head and the torso of a man. And every little piece on it was all put together in a way that mesmerized me. So I walk in there, again, not being an empath, like a magical one, obviously. And I walked and I couldn't move. I stared at that statue. I was there with friends and my husband, and they were like, we'll leave her there. We'll just keep going. I couldn't move for like 40 minutes. I just stared at that thing, just looking at every single item. It just made me feel so much about what those people must have experienced through their lifetime. And then these objects all put together in one thing. So I was like, what if they did have memories? What if someone could touch them and actually read the memories instead of me making up a story about a music box? What if someone, lost a child and was holding that music box because it was their child's? What kind of memory would you leave on that? And that's what sparked this entire world. And I'm working on book 3 right now.
That is a lot. And that is intense. Yep. And for everybody else, even if you don't believe in special powers, we are a little bit empath. Some of us more than others.
Mhm.
And here's when you can test it. If you're not sure if you are, if you walk into a room and you were like, oh, you can cut the tension with a knife, you're feeling emotions. If you're walking around
Yep.
and you're like, somebody cries and automatically you're feeling their pain, you have that extra empath.
Yep.
I'm totally with you, sweetie, because I have
Yep.
to be very careful.
Uh-huh.
Because if a room is very charged and people very angry,
Yeah.
oof, I'll leave there and not sure why I'm mad. I'm like, this has nothing to do with me. Like, what's going
I
on?
don't know why they were angry. Why am I angry? I'll get excited at a sports match, even though I could even tell you any of the rules of this sports match. You know what I mean? Like I just really reflect it, but it's exhausting too.
It is because you're picking up everybody else's feelings plus yours. So you're carrying all that extra with you. So
Mhm.
it is amazing to take that and just to transmute it into a book. How
It's
much fun
therapeutic.
was
It's
it?
kind of nice. Oh, it's a lot of fun. It's never been so easy to write books before than it has in this series.
When you're
It's
looking
nice.
at it, we talked paranormal, but this
Mhm.
has turned a little bit into a mystery as well. So you're
Oh,
pulling for
yes.
different genres.
Yes, that's why I call it a paranormal thriller, because there is a mystery involved, obviously, who murdered Albert. And so we've got this going on. And the second book is also a mystery because her brother comes back into town and her brother used to use her. Again, her family knew what she could do. Her brother used her to con people, to pretend she could talk to the dead. She couldn't, but because she could read their emotions, she could predict things and say things in a way that made the people they were talking to think she could talk to the dead, right? So that's the con thing. So he comes back. So we have that. But when he's in town, there are these dead bodies dropping. And so they're like, all right, is he connected? What's going on? And then the third book I'm writing, again, there's a murder mystery involved as well. So you have the murder mystery based with the paranormal. And then there's a little police procedural in there, but not a whole lot, because I simply don't know enough to make it realistic enough, if that makes sense.
It does.
So yeah, so it's more a higher level. It's not like we don't
Well,
actually go to court or anything, right?
this is not much more of anybody trying to kind of like, where am I into? This is a very amateur sleuthing. This is kind of the category. So you can touch into like a little of the cozy fantasy because it does end in a happy ending. She's not
Yes.
dead. So let's put it out there. Oh my God, that'd be so creepy. Have a ghost that can read
It's
emotions.
not cozy though. It is not cozy. There is blood. You just said the scene I said. So if you don't want any of the violence, there's not a whole lot, but it is where it's required. There is a little bit of sex, but not till book 2 and not until it's required, right? Like, so that's not what it's about, but don't think it's cozy. Anyone who really wants cozy and not have to think too hard to be assaulted with too many things, like, you and I walking into a room with angry people, right? If you don't want that, this is not the book for you. But if you want an adventure and to really explore what it means to be human, which is what I always write about, this book is definitely there.
I like that. What it is to be human. Because sometimes I think in the world of COVID or in the world of social media, it is easy to be separated and forget that we come with emotions.
Yep.
A lot. There is a whole bunch of that we bring to the table. So you do have all these pieces that are so energized. You also been writing for a while. So we're going to switch a little gear here. How long have you been writing?
Writing professionally, my first book came out in 2018. But writing before that, I think it was 2016, where I decided this is for real and I'm going to do it. Like writing goals, set it not just a hobby and for fun. And when I have an idea, I'll sketch it out. So I haven't been writing forever, but it's been a few years. But when I went in, I went in. I wasn't kidding anymore.
I like the fact that it's all or nothing. We're going to flip the switch and we're going to do this.
We're doing this all the way to the point that I opened my own publishing company. Yeah, I wasn't kidding.
A woman after my own heart, because I was getting ready to ask you about it. You wear multiple hats. You are a podcaster as well. You are a writer. You are a publisher. All these things come together all into this nice, amazing little piece we call Kelly. How do you make time for all these things to coexist without you going, I'm about to kill somebody?
Oh, I'm always about to kill someone. So that part I don't avoid. No, that's constant. But lists, I just live on lists. I know it's boring, but I have ADHD. So I can switch gears pretty quickly, which is very useful for wearing multiple hats. However, I also hyper focus on something. And usually it's not the thing I'm really supposed to get done that day.
Cannot even laugh.
I really, really depend on my lists. I don't think I would get anything done without them. And I have different kinds of lists. So I have lists to get things done. I have lists for the company. I have lists for personal life because, I'm also a wife and a mom and household to run. And I love to cook. And so I have like hobbies, right? And things that I will hyper focus on and not get my writing done. And then I'll be excited about my writing and I'll hyper focus on my writing, but I won't get any of my like marketing done for my company. And then I'll be like, oh, I have all this company stuff going on. So now I'm working on everyone else's book and leave mine alone. So it's lists. Lists is the only thing that gets me through every single day.
So I would like to say thank you because I'm a list person and I've been trying to weigh myself out of it, but nothing has been getting done. So I need to go back to my list because I'm going, oh, this explains why everything's like on halt. Like everything is like, I should be doing something, but what is it? So thank you for reminding me. Let's go back to basics because things have to get done again.
It's a tool, not a crutch. Use the tools.
Thank you. Ooh, that's such an awesome way to put it. You work with authors new, already established all the time. What is that advice you would give them when they come to you and say, hey, I want to publish with you? What do you tell them?
Let me read your work. For the most advice I give for brand new writers is write. Also, listen to everyone's advice, but don't obey it because you don't know what's going to work for you. Anyone that tells you this is the only way or this is the right way, they're wrong. Now, when they're like, this is how I do it, or this is what works for me, or this is what works for my friend, listen to that. But you're going to have to experiment till you find out what is right for you. And the other thing for brand new writers is do not send your work anywhere to be published until someone else reads it. And I mean someone who doesn't love you a lot. They don't count. Look, they're nice. Like we want them to read our books because we also need those people to say we're awesome, right? But it needs to be someone else who actually cares about the quality of the work, not the sensibility of your feelings. So do that first, because there are things in your work that you don't see that you don't know. You're too close to it. I am an editor. I'm a publisher. I do all these things. I still have an editor that reads my work to tell me what it is that I am missing. So definitely you need someone. I'm not saying you first start, you need to go pay thousands of dollars for an editor. It's not what I'm saying. Find a critique group, find a friend who loves to read, but is again, not going to be really nice to you. Is going to be fair, but is going to tell you what needs work on. That's new writers. For experienced writers, I'd be like, what is your expectations? What is your expectations for publishing with me? Because we specialize in series. Your first book is not going to make any money. I'll tell you that right now, because we use the first book as a loss leader. We use that to advertise. We give it away for free a lot. We market it at 99 cents a lot so that people will buy the entire series and you make money on this series. So the other thing is you will make more money the faster you can write. So the faster you can get books out, the more money you're going to make because now you have more series. Now I can put more money into advertising. And the slower you write, which most of my writers are once a year, myself included, by the way, I write 2 books a year in 2 different series. That's it. That's all I can handle. There are plenty of people that I know that write a lot faster than that. But I can't. And most of the people who publish with me are once a year or 2 books a year people. That's great. So just know it's going to take some time to actually make those financial goals you're looking for. Also, as an experienced writer, you cannot be too precious about your work. This is a teamwork. We are teaming up together to make the best product for readers. So if you don't want your work touched in any way, I'm not the right publisher for you. If you're willing to work on this and, hear my again, not obey, right? But hear my expertise. I am an expert in this, lifelong reader. We only publish horror, fantasy, and sci-fi because that is what I read primarily. I do read other things, but this is where my expertise lies. So that is all we publish. I know the audience. I know what they want. I know what they want to see. I know what they're looking for. And that's who we're writing for. If you're only writing for yourself and your own message, please go for it. But then publish yourself. There's a whole world out there. Go for it. If you're looking for readers, I gotcha.
Those are amazing advice. And sometimes I think it's hard for people to hear it. So when you're starting out, let's be honest, every one of us, that is our baby, you're holding on for dear life. Yep. I think after my 3rd book, I didn't care. I was like, does that make sense? And my editors were like, well, you should change it. And after I read it 3 times, I can't change. Delete, move on to something else.
Problem solved.
Oh my God. Once I realized cutting something out just worked just as well as trying to rewrite it 3 times, I was like, why am I wasting my time? Nobody's going to notice.
It's not really necessary.
It was not. The end. And I moved on and people was like, does it hurt? I'm like, no, not at all. You probably tell me you feel this way. I think I wrote something and I write it in the middle of the night because I'm depending how my time comes. Nice. And in the middle of the night, everything sounds really funny, probably because you're sleep deprived.
Right.
Let's just put it out there. Then when other people read it, it's not nearly as funny.
Right.
And then when you go back and you're like, that was a lot more funny 2 weeks ago. Not anymore. the end. Delete. Do not hold on to this like it's your precious child.
No,
It is
because
worth.
it's not. Yeah.
And the more you write, the less committed you are. So take your writing seriously, not yourself, and just
Yes.
have fun.
Mhm.
Because, oh God, it's such a journey.
Yes. Yes.
You
For sure.
have so much stuff going on. It's so much excitement. And every time I talk to you, you always bring the same passion to it, regardless of what you're working on. What
Mhm.
do you do to keep that motivation going? What is it that keeps you driving and hyper?
I think it is because I'm so busy. So I'm never, and I've been like this forever, by the way, even before I was a writer. It's just the way my brain works. If I stay busy, that keeps me motivated.
Okay.
And if I don't allow myself to hyper focus, then I'm still excited about that thing. So like I stopped today, I was writing this morning and I did not want to stop. I wanted to finish that chapter. I was almost done and it was like really good. And I was like, I'm like, oh, I like this. This is so, oh, why didn't I think of that? Because you struggle it like for the mysteries. I plan everything out because I have to, right? The bodies have to drop a certain time. You have to have so many suspects. Here's your red herring. Like there's a pattern. And my books do not perfectly follow the pattern, but they still have to have a pattern or it doesn't work as a mystery. They're really well outlined. But nevertheless, when you start to write it, things change a little bit, right? Like, well, that's okay. That sounded like it was going to work. Like you said, in the middle of the night, when I was writing the outline, this isn't working. So I'm writing and then I figured it out, right? So I'm like, okay, now it works. So then I'm writing and I'm figuring it out. And then I was like, oh, but I got to go. I have this interview. I have this thing. That's what the lists are for, right? I have timers on my phone because I'll get distracted. So what happens is I am still excited about that. When I get off here, I am not going to go back to write that though. Because the next thing on my list is editing that I have to do for one of my clients, right? So instead of doing this thing I'm still excited about, I'm going to go do the editing thing, which I really don't want to do. And what'll happen is, but I have to, it's next on my list. And so I will do it. And what'll happen is I'll get excited about the editing. And then I'll get it and I'll be, oh, but I'm like, nope, timer went off. Now it's time to move on to the next thing. So the way I keep the excitement is by having lots of things that I have to do and stopping it before I'm not excited about it anymore.
You never actually let it go plunging down.
Correct. Because then it's almost impossible to get back into it.
Oh God, yes. Because it becomes a chore and you're just dragging it. Yes. Oh, such a good tip. We're full of good tips for everybody. For everybody's listening, this is amazing stuff.
And that works for anything, right? That's not just a writing thing. That's just life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a 15-minute tip. So if you don't want to do something, pick 15 minutes because you can get anything done in 15 minutes and then you stop and they're like, oh, that was great. And then you can move on.
And move on to the next thing. Yep.
Without committing to it, which makes it a little easier. I just realized we can talk for anything for hours and our time is coming to an end. So I need to make sure. I need to make sure I get this information before you go. Where can our viewers and listeners find you? Where they can get more about these books and everything you do? Tell us.
Well, Kelly as the writer hat is kellylynncolby.com. I have a blog on there and you can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at kcolbywrites. So it's Colby like the cheese. K Colby Writes on all three of those. I am not on TikTok. I am on TikTok as the company though. So if you go to cursedragonship.com on TikTok, you can see some videos there. Cursedragonship.com is my company's website. So if you're looking for some awesome fiction, we've got it up there. If you are writers looking to be published, we are open for submissions. And we do have a short story anthology open right now. And then if you are really into podcasts, we have 20 questions with your favorite author. We streamed that live and DC was on there and she was awesome. We streamed that live. It was so much fun on Tuesday nights. It was so much fun. 8 p.m. Central on twitch.tv/cursedragonship. And we also have a group of D&D players who are all writers, which makes it really unique. So we really concentrate on the story more than the rules. So it's a lot of fun. And that's on Monday night, twitch.tv/cursedragonship at 7 p.m. Central.
Listen, if you're looking for a fun podcast to come and chill and have a blast, you need to check this one out. Just be prepared. Those questions are going to get you. I was like, whoa. I was not ready for questions. I was like, I thought I was a professional at this. Yeah, Kelly got me. So absolutely not prepared, but it's so much fun.
Well, you sounded perfectly prepared, so you pulled it off. So good job.
It's called faking it till we make it. That's what we're going to do.
That's right.
All right. And because we have a lightning round here as well. Are you ready for these ones?
Yes.
Super easy. Don't think too much. Let's see how you do.
Okay.
Pepsi or Coke?
Coke.
Nice. Wizard or pirate?
Wizard.
Okay. Most people say pirate. Interesting.
No, need the magic and the studying. That's me.
I like Science fiction or drama?
Science fiction.
Sweet.
Every time.
Desktop or laptop?
I'm going to say laptop because I go everywhere with it. But at home, I actually use both simultaneously.
I like. Nice job. Here's a little different.
Mm.
If your life had a warning label, what would it be?
Oh my gosh. A warning label. That's a good one. I'm totally stealing it.
It's one of my favorite.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. I'm totally using that on mine. Let's see. Warning label. Is it bad? I'm trying to narrow it down to one.
You can do multiple. You wear multiple hats, but let that slide.
All right. All right. So I think my warning sign will be spicy but cute.
I like.
That's personality, by the way, not actual appearance.
You're totally cute. Whatever. All right, sweetie. Any closing remarks for us?
No, I mean, thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun. I will say that my books are also an audiobook. As you see, as I stumbled through my reading, that is not what I do professionally. So my closing remark is pay professionals to do professional work, just for the record.
I love you, Miss Kelly. You are fabulous. To our listeners, go ahead, check out Miss Kelly. Check out both the company as well as her private works. You are going to love it. Check out the audiobooks. If you're into audiobooks, go for it. Have a blast. You're not going to be disappointed. Remember, we'll be back next Monday with another exciting author. And if you're interested in supporting what we do and bring more authors to your listening device, go ahead, join the Patreon community. And thank you so much. Bye, everyone.